session is, I must confess, it's not entirely about wood. It's my contribution to this session would be from a philosophical point of view, how we are obliged to have a greater respect for nature and therefore for forests, and eventually how we ensure sustainability of wood products in the marketplace. So, very first question, I think we have time, so I might drag on a little bit. If you are asked a question, what's the first thing that strikes you when you walk into a garden? I'm sure you can draw a list of details. Right? You can say, well, I've seen some flowers. I can tell you, I can describe the color of it. I can describe the shape of the plant. I can tell you, But there's one thing that you might overlook, and very often that is the case. Basically, when I ask you these questions, generally speaking, you would give all the details, but the simple things we tend to overlook. And probably you would rarely say, yeah, I see green. Green should be one of the first things that strike us when we encountered such a question. So, green is an obvious answer. Therefore, it would be taken for granted. And that is manifested in the way we look at environment in general. Right? We take things for granted, and so we become unconscious of and insensitive to fundamental values, therefore. By just simple tests, and it just suggests that there are other things related around it that we take for granted. And that is part of why we do not succeed so well in resolving problems related to environment, and to the environment, to the forest ecosystem, how best we can manage them. So, such a lack of perception, as we say, we overlook the obvious, has resulted today, the evidence is there, undisputable, degradation of our forest environment. So, during the week, coincidental, and it is good to know that other speakers have highlighted on this issue, that we are at times where we are modernizing. It's a necessity for progress, we call it progress, and at the same time we have destroyed ecosystems, mainly forest ecosystems, and for the sake of economic development and with the aim of enriching, well, people might argue that only the few gets much benefit out of this activity. The victims would obviously be the environment. And what do you mean by the environment? The landscape, the forest landscapes, the timber, the availability of timber, today, tomorrow, plants, wildlife, and of course the people that depend on those resources, right? As the poor. Their livelihoods are taken away because of these issues. So when planners and politicians, businessmen, don't consider the environment and sustainability, this is what happens. So when you have nature that is already destroyed, livelihoods will be affected, cultures will be affected, and even lives are lost in the case of environmental disaster. Many examples, megadams. You don't need megadams, a lot of megadams in Sarawak. I don't think there's any other Sarawakian in the audience. You don't need many megadams in there, it's just an oversupply. Some unreasonable reasons for building dams. It's hard to fathom. You get the Bhopal incident. Bhopal, as you know, many years ago, there was a Union Carbide plant that produces something, can't remember, associated with it, and there was leakage into the environment, and many people died who lived around the industry died because of that. So we are falling deeper into the throes of ecological disaster. Even today, I mean, in many parts of the world, these problems have not been well mitigated or managed. So basically, we are encountering our basic human weaknesses being put in action. Right? I'm not saying it's the norm, but if you don't exercise controls over how you should manage things, greed sets in. Greed is part of our situation, and we have to ensure that this does not get in the way of obligations to society. Within the human experience over the ages among civilizations, there has been sensitive awareness of delicate balance to be maintained between man and nature. So this is not an issue that we encounter for the first time. Since ancient civilization, there's evidence through tradition, through religious beliefs, through experience gained with how you deal with the environment, that already has shown us the way how we can better manage a forest environment. Right? Various philosophies. And I was interested to see during the week, the Native American Indian had an interesting leaflet that says about how best the environment and respect of the environment and how the environment is treated, how we treat fellow human beings, which is reflected in how we treat the environment. And that interesting information I took and I put it on the slide, and I'll show you in a minute. So it's not something that's just, as we obviously know, it's not of the philosophy that is just been encountered. It's been around for a long time, and it's there to be used as a tool to how we treat the environment. So major religions, philosophies has taught us the necessity for natural resources to be nurtured to sustain man's continued existence. Later on, I will show you examples, snippets of from religious doctrines, religious books that does actually show that these are the messages of how we can safeguard the environment. So the environmental stability, sustainable use of natural resources are cradles of the development of humanity and civilization from these religious and philosophical traditions. Here is what I was saying earlier on during the week. I picked up this, I typed it on, so I would like to take the opportunity to read through very quickly. I do not know what American Native Indian tribe was being referred here, but I didn't get a chance to ask, but this is what it says, that everything is sacred, all things are alive, respect your elders, listen and learn. You reap what you sow. So if you do good things, manage the environment well, you stand to benefit. The climate stands to benefit from it. So you give before you take. So only for survival will you take an animal's life. So if you need food from the forest, you only take what you need. You don't devastate the whole forest and wildlife. You don't go on a hunting spree, shooting animals just for the fun of it, although it's been regarded as a sport in some circles. So remember that you are who you are and your ancestors. So it's about respect for humans, fellow humans, and therefore, at the same time, respect for the forest. I'm not here to preach, but I'm just here to share information that's available, that perhaps if there's a wider audience that finds this information useful, then they can actually take note of it for their use. And honor the sacredness of your mind, body, spirit. Spirituality comes into play here for those who are spiritually involved, right? If you're an atheist, you have other means of relying upon. to help you decide how best you can manage an environment. But those who are spiritually involved, you have your religious doctrines to guide you. So, basically, much of it here has provided information, insights that there is connection with the environment. There is connection with the environment. What you do to the environment and how you treat other people at the same time is all related to respect. So there's another school of thought. Well, the school of thought could be evolved partly from religion, experience with religion, write up information that how one should perceive environmental ethics. I believe there are many schools of thought here on environmental ethics, and I understand that some universities do offer this course to an undergraduate or at graduate level, which is good because it helps to put the foundations of an understanding of how the environment should be treated. Right? It's all about respect for the environment. So let me show you a few points here. It has become an academic interest, and part of the environmental philosophy. It considers that the aspects of ethics involve human and non-human world. So there are many ethical questions for humans to decide concerning the environment based on various schools of thought. And I'll show you here. When you're dealing with environmental ethics, part of it may be manifested from religion. These are the decisions you make. The decisions you make may not be the same as the decisions another person make based on the same questions that we ask. The first one I will say, should humans continue to clear-cut forests for the sake of human consumption? Why should humans continue to propagate its species at the expense of and life itself and at the expense of other forms of existence? Should humans continue to have petrol or powered vehicles? What environmental obligations do humans need to keep for future generations? Is it right for humans to knowingly cause the extinction of a species for the convenience of humanity? Some of these are hard questions that needs to be addressed. So how should humans best use and conserve the environment to secure and expand life? Questions like this, but you'll be surprised, you get varying opinions about it, and that will lead to different ways of handling the environment, managing the environment. Now, I'd like to share snippets from religious beliefs, and I'll start with this, with the Christian view. The Christian world view sees the universe as created by God, and the world view will be based on the Bible, of course. Humans accountable to God for the use of resources entrusted to humankind. Ultimate value seen in the context of being of value to God. So you would judge how good you have been performing on earth. You benchmark to what is expected from God. What values are we looking at? Caring for people, environmental health, dealing with sin. Sin has got many different meanings behind it, right? Selfishness particularly, and thoughtlessness. So all these selfishness, thoughtlessness, and other forms of sin, as the Christian view mentions, will lead you to do things that you not otherwise do to an environment. Now the Chinese view, and of course I do stand to be corrected because I'm only putting snippets of information. There's just too much to fill in, even from one viewpoint itself. The Chinese tradition about how they address the environment, tradition and culture is shaped around the concepts of Confucianism, Taoism, Neo-Confucianism. So what is Confucianism? The very first thing, Confucianism stressed on moral goodness of man as key to happiness, but nature, unfortunately, is not part of the equation. Now, the next thing then evolved, it has Taoism. I stand to be corrected. Please let me know. Taoism sees man needs to be in harmony with nature. So that's different from Confucianism again. Here, nature is factored into the whole sphere of consideration of about how you address, how you treat the environment, and how you utilize it. Neo-Confucianism combines the two, which emphasizes on complete complementariness, not contrariness, of pairs of opposites, yin and yang forces. Right? There's complementariness. You have good and bad. You need the two combined together. You get good results, and which are to give you harmony. With the aid of Taoism. So basically, the Chinese view, the overall context, the bottom line is, if you are in harmony with nature, you'll be happy with nature. Now, the Islamic view, just parts of it, I've taken parts of it, it's just a lot of information if you like to search through the Quran on the website, but the essence of Islam is Tawhid, unity of God based on the Quran. Tawhid is the center of Muslims' conception of man and nature. Nature is creation. The God, or the address is Allah. God created perfect and orderly. Nature is a gift as an innocent, good place with the disposal of man to safeguard the environment, not to destroy, but to safeguard. So, with these three views alone, the three religious views or traditional views, and there are many more which could not fit here. There are many more religions and traditions which I couldn't fit here or may have overlooked, but I believe they carry an underlying theme. And these are, for example, that religions and all exhort followers to take good care of the environment. No religion, probably, I might be wrong again, a religion to sustain itself has a proven record of getting people to do good things. So it will be followed for years to come, it will not be abandoned. So religious teachers knew that appreciation of nature, preservation of natural environment, and conservation of resources were essential components of man's relationship with his creator, with nature, with fellow human beings, and thus with his own spirituality and material well-being. So these are all found in whatever religion you may profess, and these parts of it is echoed in environmental ethic concepts too. Okay. Of course, God is not mentioned in environmental ethics as a subject, but the principles, the actions are taken out and addressed as part of the concepts of environmental ethics. Continuing from there, so man's religious duty to conserve natural resources and protect the environment. So these are all available, addressed in literature or interpreted. The verses of religious doctrines, you interpret it and you are more certain to arrive at these conclusions as well. Similarities. The exhortations of religions to love, show compassion, humility, understanding has considerable implications in the way we regard natural resources and the environment. Well, in some parts of the world, people eat certain animals that we actually taken as pets. And not everybody likes to do that, right? Because it's to me, it's not a good thing to do, but maybe to other people it's the norm. It's a norm to do it. If you cherish certain pets, like dogs, you tend to actually look after it as if it's a part of the family, isn't it? So ecological equilibrium is a consequence of the dictates of religious values on man's use and care for nature. You must have an equilibrium. The environment has been in equilibrium until we felt the need to overexploit the environment, and that has caused a lot of negative repercussions. Harmony with nature is the manifestation of man's harmony with his creator. From the religious point of view, man is not allowed to exploit nature mercilessly. He is there to safeguard nature. He takes only what he needs. He or she takes only what he needs. So that is the underlying, one of the many underlying principles of the religions that we have come to know. So, strong links between man and nature, as depicted in major religions and traditions, must in no way be regarded as regressive traits in respective societies. So, many religions have these good points. The concept of man and nature permeated thinking and led to development of many sciences. These sciences were also integrated with their respective beliefs and traditions. Not just science for its own sake to try and get rid of logs much quicker, but actually science that actually shows that you have taken the trouble to, you respect the environment, you expect the elements, and you develop science in order to understand the components of the environment much more, and put back your knowledge in science in how to make the world a better place to live in, make the environment a better place to live in. Well, I believe that the information, the concepts of environmental ethics may be infused with some elements of religion, depending on who is involved in developing them, would result in these doctrines, which is fairly acceptable, is well accepted, is understandable, right? For example, priorities of the Convention of Biodiversity, biological diversity, the points here. Here, possible influences of how forest-related response to climate change, and Maureen has just addressed that, so I'll just show. So the ideas of how you go about addressing the problems, it's all manifested in environmental ethics. Otherwise, there's no the chance of having something like this that would be acceptable to a wider society would not be so. But that's right. You have these things that come up because you have an appreciation for the environment. You have a deep knowledge of what approaches the environmental ethics that is widely acceptable, and you come up with these strategies. So if you don't have these underlying religious or philosophical principles, you'll be detached from these natural surroundings, and you feel that you are more important than the environment. You dominate, you conquer, and then sooner than you can imagine, you've lost your biodiversity. So man creates an environment where science, technology is developed for selfish needs, basically, rather than to make the environment better. This is another example. Points here about impacts of weak governance on forests. It's all manifested in appreciation for the tradition, for religion, for the environmental ethics, in order that you would formulate meaningful information such as that. I think I would take just a brief moment to touch on IUFRO, the International Research Union of Forest Research Organizations, working on principles that well accepted in relation to how you best manage the environment. Of course, firstly, but I appreciate that these things has to be looked after. So the organization that I represent, and many of us among the audience too are members of, it is a non-profit. It's for the benefit of general audience that have not being introduced to this organization. So it's non-profit, non-governmental. It's a network of forest scientists. It promotes global cooperation of forest-related activities. Good communication is essential in order to put into action strategies for the betterment of the forest and the environment and for sustainable forest products. We disseminate a lot of invaluable scientific information, contribute to forest management, forest policies, strengthens research for global benefit. We have lots of international cooperation between research institutes throughout the globe. That's the website there. We'll give you more details. Basically, as I said, the ethics, the philosophies, or maybe even religious philosophies of people who are involved is still pretty much the same. And we have an NGO like IUFRO, and there are many NGOs out there, World Wood Day Foundation too, that has these positive elements, some if not all, some of these positive elements. Respect, safeguard, and manage the environment. A little bit more about the Forest Products Division, because this is a World Wood Day event, and the Forest Products Division is concerned about wood research, and non-wood research from the forest, and wooden artifacts, wood culture, which is very much a part of this event. So that's where the UFRO Forest Products Division is very much supportive of events such as this, as it provides an opportunity for awareness to the general audience and for researchers to network among themselves on best strategies to manage the environment and the forest, and how to take the forest product research to a better phase. And as we come close to the end, I'll just reiterate a very brief summary by this caption: religious, traditional, and environmental ethics guides humanity to safeguarding forests and promote sustainable wood supply. A lot of quotes here. In particular, these two quotes has grabbed my attention. Our humanness depends above all on the quality of man's relationship with his creator and to the rest of creation. The next one: man is nature's priest, and nature is God's silent communing with man. Thank you very much.